Wow, wow, wow. And I see this a little bit emphatically with three W's for World Wellness Weekend, maybe. Um,
Why not?
Congratulations for once again making clear issues so easy to grasp and understand because there is no easy way to sugarcoat it. Um, it's all about the decision, the mindset, and sticking to it and being consistent with what we call the five pillars of wellness, the quality of your sleep, the decisions you make for your nutrition, whether it's eating, drinking, and not just for having a beach body, which is going to be on everybody's mind the next time the sun is out. But it's really about also brain food, brain vitality. And I have a question about this later. It's about, as you said, vitality and movement, not just practicing for the next Olympics, but enjoying this quality of life, this zest of life, and wanting to be an entrepreneur with your life and with the time that you have ahead of you, the health span rather than the lifespan, so that you can enjoy this mobility and being free to move around by yourself. And then, of course, the overload that you mentioned with the news, the things that are out of our realm of um, uh, the things we can have an impact on. We can just endure listening to them days on and day on. So serenity and mindfulness, absolutely key. One thing also that is important is when you don't know what to do for the rest of the planet because of decisions, the Strait of Hormuz is not up to us, but how we can help a family in our building, on our lot. This adds sense of purpose and solidarity, having knitter close-knit relationship. So, five pillars of wellness. I was hoping that as we go forward with talks with you every year, the slide with the 10 reasons why we die would turn into nine. I'm a realistic optimist, so I was hoping for a nine and a half reasons why you may die when you just added two more. Well, not you, but
Wasn't me.
it
Wasn't me.
wasn't you.
I am but a mouthpiece to the science. It's I think the two that were added give us a little bit more of a role. It's very difficult when we look at things like senescent cells, which are old cells that potentially haven't gone through the right process of getting rid of themselves, and they create this sort of inflammatory aftertail. It's not as easy to get rid of those. Aggressive fasting, aggressive heat protocols. There are some things, but reducing inflammation and having a good balanced gut microbiome sit very neatly in the preserve of the fitness and wellness and hospitality sector through intelligent food, intelligent stress management, through again appropriate lifestyle choices. So they're we don't want to keep adding to them, but if we were going to add two, they're not a bad two to add.
Absolutely. We have quite a few people tuning in from around the world. We have Julie Wren, nutritionist in Belgium. We have Karen, the founder of Immunology Skincare in New York, in Manhattan. We have Joe Gaglani in India. We have Marina Danon in Benin. We have Kay Pennington in the UK. We have so many other people. I'd like to turn to Julie, maybe Karen. Is there a question you have? I have so many questions I want to ask you, but ladies first. Julie?
Thank you very much, Shongi. Yes, as always, thank you, Ollie. Very, very interesting, exciting, and great food for thought. So my question is really around how do you see within the spa environment putting together a team? If you decide not to go down to the longevity road,
Yeah,
because your strategy doesn't focus on that, but you want to offer that experience, but is more focusing on reducing the allostatic load.
yeah.
And you mentioned all these different people that you could have on your on call. I mean, what does the ideal look like to be credible?
It's a good question. I think it depends whether you are absorbing or collecting data, or you're just delivering therapeutic. So, if I could measure a blood parameter like high sensitivity C-reactive protein, you'll know that one as a generalized
Mm,
marker of inflammation. Not brilliant, but it's not bad. And I could say I'm going to measure that, and now I'm going to do my intervention, which is a lymphatic drainage massage, which I'll do
mhm,
three over the course of the next 7 days, and give you a chance to hydrate properly on some of our delicious, again, herbal, non-caffeinated drinks, and show you real care and touch. And over a period of time, that high sensitivity C-reactive protein will go down. Now, the question there is, did I need the test? So what's the value? Because if I want to do the test to prove, I need an advanced practitioner, and that's probably, a functional nutritionist. So a nutritionist capable in that is probably your broadest, most progressive, and you'll like me saying that, I'm sure, Julie. But I think nutrition probably is probably the best ability to absorb data preventatively. Doctors still are mostly trained in the reactive data, and we all know exceptions to every rule. But I think if you want a practitioner to measure biological markers that indicate signs of aging or progression, you've got to decide whether you want them to be the nutritional markers, it's probably a nutritionist, or you want them to be the functional markers like VO2 max, muscle mass, mobility, in which case it's probably an upskilled personal trainer / performance coach. And sadly, often those two people aren't the exact same person. And if they are, you probably had to invest an awful lot in training them, and you'll work quite hard to build them for the risk of losing them. So the question is always, you've got to be very confident that the addition of the objective measurement is going to influence your strategy significantly, or your consumers are definitively asking for that output metric. I'm a big believer in saying, actually, having more people who can deliver both touchless and touch-led therapies in that environment where the protocols have been curated, so they are effective lymphatic drainage, and it is a very anti-inflammatory strategy. I think creating experience based on the intervention is the superpower that already exists. If we get bogged down in the measurement pre and post, it's harder to do on scale because that individual is variant and tough to keep occupied. Does that make sense?
It does indeed. So if you take away the metrics then, and you just look at the experience you can offer. But what I find as well when I do health coaching is if you don't have that follow-up with that person for a number of months even, the risk is that the behavior change does not stick. So is there then a case for Spa and Wellness to look at more deeper post contact with guests to be able to ensure that there is proper behavior change?
I love that. In an ideal world, that's 100% what I think. The challenge there again is that retained behavioral coaching and iteration is quite a health coach specific. Really, there you're a behavior change specialist, which doesn't normally fit with the individual who lay their hands on you and delivered an exceptional treatment. So I think at the moment, unless there's a digital provision for that, which is at the moment low engagement, that is an unsolved problem. That I create this enormous, wonderful touch point. I decrease some of the biological markers. We create great engagement. You're bought into Ollie's spa. You had an amazing time, and then I sort of cast you out into the night and go, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope when you come back in a year, you've managed to do some of the things we talked about. I think it's probably at this point strategic partnerships. And saying, if you're in the Maldives, that's gonna be very difficult because you need a strategic partnership with people flying in from all around the world. If you are in an urban club which pulls from a local district, you can probably build, we love everyone at this gym, or we love this online coach. But I think having an online capability to keep checking in, link back on behavior, makes it a more judicious approach. But equally, if people want to really just say, I'm going to deliver exceptional experiences, circuit breakers, really strong treatments, I think that model works without those things. Just being aware that the individual won't return more well unless they do something in between. But that's not your responsibility unless they ask it to be.
Okay, thank you so much.
Super question.
Thank you. Karen, do you have a question?
I do. Sorry, I can't be on screen right now, but yes, I do have. It's also a question with a question kind of question. As Jean-Guy said, I am the founder of Immunicology, a skincare brand that's about skin health. And since I did this, put this brand together, it wasn't just about, looking beautiful and, about anti-aging, which is what we really have in the industry and around the world. We as women particularly are out there going, what's the latest anti-aging cream, when most of them, for the most part, are damaging the skin and bringing trauma to the skin opposed to bringing health to the skin. And so the question goes on is, you mentioned about sort of the same thing that I just said. And as you put this into the world and we're talking about longevity and we're talking about what we can do, the thing there that I see that we've eliminated is what happens to the microbiome of the skin and how it reflects what goes on. What you put on your body goes into your body, what goes into your gut, also is reflective, of course. So, you did touch on it, but I wanted to just ask the question: do you see that correlation as strong as I do? Is the gut health, the oral health, and the skin health all have to be also in sync with a balanced, in balance of some kind, or if we're going out there and using toxic ingredients on our skin.
Yeah.
This is where I get myself a little bit, and Jean-Guy knows this about me, that this is where my story starts as a cancer survivor, and understanding that not just from a point, I've been in the I want to say consumer business, cosmetic industry, my whole career. I've never gone, in and out. I've just been here. So I'm really in tune to this and what you're saying today. So I just want to hear a little deeper thought here, because this is my platform to add to what you're doing and be, that spokesperson for that area.
I love it, and congrats, Karen. It sounds fab. I mean, I think, so often people don't have a great understanding of toxicity. So I think, when you have a
Correct.
product that is more judicious than its competitor, it's quite challenging when no one is aware of the problem that the competitor causes. So you almost have to, you will know that for your product to be better understood, you'll need to educate people on the microbiome and then the skin microbiome, and then toxicity and the repercussions of toxicity, because your product is less toxic and has this microbiome component. So that's a great challenge. So I think in the ecosystem of things that are additive to physiology, your product sounds like it's exactly that. So
Yes.
clinics that are looking at, I want to create a longevity lilted program, and
Yes.
dysbiosis is a key part of that. Of course, your product would align more closely with it, with the logical philosophy. So that's great. The challenge, of course, is proving the impact of those above and beyond a better experience. And
Yeah.
you'll know with your products, they show their value over, when you compound them over time. And it's exactly the same thing. Very few things elicit a sort of lifelong change from the moment they're topically applied, or the one amazing exercise session, or the one sunrise you catch on the back of your eye. It's about that regularity of it over time. And I think your benefit versus some of the traditional things is I could take, I assume, a version of your creams away with me, and that could be a lifelong relationship. Whereas if it's not a product, it's a service, and services are much more transactional.
Yes.
So I think the first piece there is the narrative of low toxicity, microbiome supporting, and people won't necessarily understand that the microbiome
Right.
extends to the skin, is very aligned with the longevity movement, and that sets you in a good state to have conversations with those providers. I think that the broader piece is, as part of an ecosystem, if I'm going to add something to my life regularly, it should be adding to my physiology, not detracting from it. And I think there you're sort of piggybacking and leading part of the education around this, which is no singular thing is ultimately good or bad for you. It's the compounding effect of these things over time. And
Right.
so there's a very strong narrative there, Karen. It sounds supremely aligned with where this can be judicious, and where we need to understand this is a relationship, not a one night stand type thing. So
Yeah.
that all sounds really positive.
Thank
Really,
you,
thank
Ollie,
you.
and
Thank you.
thank you, Karen. I have a question, because you did mention your longevity superpower, and Wellness Weekend had a slogan last year, which is "Make wellness your superpower." So once again, very aligned there. My question is regarding GLP-1, which seems to be taking the US by storm. The European Health Fitness Forum, where I met you 2 years ago, they released this year a study saying that 12% of the population in the US is currently using some form of GLP-1, Ozempic or other, and 30 million people are already using it in Europe.
Yep.
These people are seeing massive weight loss with massive muscle mass loss. And you keep always going back to muscle mass being one of the key elements of longevity. How can professionals in fitness, in spa, wellness practitioners adapt their programs, and the experience for those people who think they're doing a great thing, by losing weight when actually they could be endangering their life because of muscle mass loss.
It's the great challenge, and I think it's fair to note that we're not entirely sure if the significant proportion of muscle loss in the weight is just because of the speed of the loss, or because of the GLP-1 or GLP-1 like elements that are included in the product. So what we know is if I lose 20% of my weight in a year, up to 40% of that could be muscle mass. And again, if I take an individual, and that's an average, so it might be more than that for many. If I take an individual who weighs 100 kilograms, lose them 10 kilograms, at 90 kilograms, if I lost 8 kilograms of muscle, they're far less healthy than they were at 100. Because remember, muscle is our structure, muscle is where I store glycogen, muscle's a hormonal house. So muscle is really the elixir of longevity. And therefore, the loss of muscle is a catastrophic health challenge versus the loss of body fat and visceral fat, so the fat around my organs, which is one of the biggest challenges to physiology. So two individuals losing 10 kilograms, one might go from being a high risk health profile, massively dysfunctional, lose 9 kilograms of fat, 6 of that from their viscera. Oh my God, they're going to be cloud nine. Their compatriot who didn't do resistance training, who didn't consume 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of their body weight, but did the exact same weight loss protocol, lost 8 kilograms of muscle mass, and they're sluggish, injury prone. And again, the minute they come off the drugs, they will find that weight returning with abundance, and they've chipped away at muscle gain, fat back. So it's to me, again, the drugs are extraordinarily effective. Well, not to me, to the world. And we now see retatrutide, which is 3 individual peptides, as a drug which Eli Lilly will bring out this year, which is maybe 30% of weight loss in a year. Why they're also extremely interesting to the longevity conversation is, of course, they act on different pathways, but broadly they suppress appetite, which means I eat less, but they also increase my sensitivity to blood glucose, which improves what we call our metabolic health. So that was their origin. These drugs were originally for people with type 2 diabetes to help their cells become more sensitive to insulin, and they just noticed massive weight loss as a side effect. So you've got, with an individual on these drugs, improved blood glucose control, which is significant for brain health, significant for organ health, reduced appetite, slight state of starvation, longevity 101, reduced body fat, reduced inflammation, longevity 102. So these are really a longevity drug. And I think they'll be reapportioned as such and moved into a different population with microdosing. It's very clear most people in the sort of advanced longevity space will be microdosing on things like Mounjaro, and most of them will be taking off-license retatrutide, because they want better glucose control, slightly hungry all the time, but they don't want the aggravating anger that you get from being hungry all the time, that I would get, for example, as I move towards lunch. All that said, it's a wonderful opportunity to align on strength training and nutritional quality and density. But if your gym doesn't include body composition analysis, then you can't get involved in this discussion. Because if you don't know that for the 10 kilograms I lost, it was 5 kilograms fat, 5 kilograms muscle, you are a weight loss arbitrator. It's like maybe this waist measurement, maybe just as an interim would get you away with it. But businesses like the Technogym Checkup, InBody, these are products that I think staff need to be literate on. And if I measure your body composition, Jean-Guy, I measure your weight and your skeletal muscle mass. I don't measure your body fat. I measure your skeletal muscle mass. So here's a language play, right? Where someone who's out of shape, worried about their conscious about their image, doesn't want their weight and body fat measured. I'm not measuring your body fat, I'm measuring your skeletal muscle mass. And my objective is to keep that number preserved or grown for the next 10 years. And if that number goes down, you need more strength training, more protein. If that number stays stable, you're okay. If that number goes up, legend. You're a legend anyway.
I like the way you say legend, because you always find a way or a twist after talking about really important things to make wellness and longevity cool and sexy again, if I may say so. And it's not related to the t-shirt, man, but definitely through your words, you definitely always find a way. I'm conscious of time, and we have just a few minutes before we strike the hour. Interestingly enough, Julie and I have a similar question to ask you. I was wondering, because you do work with groups, some iconic, Raffles and others. You work, also you consult with cities, boroughs. Do you see in the UK or internationally some city officials, some lawmakers wanting to take wellness to what they deliver as social development for their constituents and as a key to economic growth to revive some districts or some boroughs. And basically, Julie was asking kind of the same question. Do you think that in the future there will be some kind of government-led regulatory guidelines around longevity, or would it be something that the industry should self-regulate to create clarity for the consumer and establish some ethics in what can be delivered? Well, somewhat the same question, same but different.
I think it's great. I think the first thing is for the regulatory piece and the whole FDA approval is this case of until you classify aging as a disease, you can't really properly govern therapeutic interventions that claim to be longevity. So there is a piece before the piece, which is, and again, lots of people do view aging as a disease and want to treat it therapeutically. But until that is classified, you're in this sort of world of, well, it makes the cells better, therefore it's probably good. So I think there's a regulatory piece that can't happen until we define aging more centrally and classify as a disease. I think when we look at regulatory body or group-wide policies, they're still so embryonic. It's about, the value of people being more active, and that plays out in a slightly reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. And what will be talked about in a sort of advanced longevity wellness clinic will be very different to what's being discussed at a local authority level. I would say the only place being the UAE, I think, is very forward thinking about having a population strategy as part of a productivity play, and everything from, again, it's some bits have slowed down, but the 2030 vision of Saudi is an interesting example of a true population incentive to increase the well-being of people. But I think it's very siloed, best practice not established. And you've got to start with what is the problem I'm solving. Some places it's too much food, some of it's too little activity, others it's no sleep. So the danger is saying there's a blanket solution for any population of people. But I would say to the regulatory piece, is aging classified as a disease? Then we can move into some more advanced regulatory pieces. And then is anyone getting it right on a population authority level? Eyes on the UAE, but nothing robust at present.
Wow, always so refreshing, clarifying to hear you. I highly encourage anyone listening live or the recording of this session with you to turn to Future Practice, to learn more. It's not just listening to you for an hour that's going to change, it's learning from you, from your modules, from the research. It's not just the data and the statistics. Go and ask ChatGPT, you'll get so many statistics. What are the right statistics and how to read between the lines? Numbers, interesting. I remember last year you connected the number of people dying eaten by sharks and also by the number of ice cream consumed on the same months. They seem to correlate, and so therefore we could ask, are people, because people are more eating more ice cream, are they dying because more of shark? They seem to spike up during the summer, not related. So how do we make sense and how do we decipher through the noise to understand what works, what still needs to be defended? Because unfortunately, after spa bashing, wellness bashing, there's also longevity bashing, and because sometimes, and I just learned it recently, you may take a genetic test in the morning and take that very same genetic test in the evening, and the two tests will give you an expected health span of 10 years apart. A genetic age of genetic, not the health span, but the genetic age that you may be in your cells, 10 years apart because of what you ate and how you behaved. Same test sent to the same lab. So what do we believe in? And some people say in God we trust. I definitely believe in Ollie. And if there's something happening, I'll definitely call on you. And I highly encourage, decision makers in hospitality groups, in cities. We have the support of over 30 mayors participating in Wellness Weekend. There should be more initiatives in cities, and there should be more groups, hospitality, tourism-led, that definitely look into this direction. So, Ollie, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your precious time, your precious insights all the time. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Joe, Karen, for joining also.
Thank you.
and all of you joining on Zoom, on Facebook, and the different links that I share with different groups. Thank you so very much. Hopefully, let's meet soon because it's always a pleasure and it goes too fast. Merci.
Thank
Thank
Oli.
you so much, Ali. Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
Yes,
Jean-Guy.
thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you very much.